On my grandmother's side, my dad's mother, she was a Krogman. Her parents came to America from Germany. They lived up by the Baltic Sea. They were in their early 20s. They got married. He was a sheep herder, and she was a cook in a big co-op farm. So they got married and then came to America with $50 or $100 in their pocket. And Grandma had her only brother and her 4 sisters lived just south of Buffalo on Lake Erie. And they had been here 8 or 10 years before her. And came in New York through Ellis Island, and then they went to her sisters and brothers and mother and father who were here. None of his family was in America, Grandpa's family. They stayed in New York some time. I don't mean months, but more than a week or so. So I think they were trying to decide where they wanted to go. And they obviously didn't stay in New York. And they came to Michigan, and they came to Montcalm County, which is directly one county south of where I was raised in Mecosta County. Grandpa, in that area would have been, in the time they came, it would have been lumbering, the height of the lumbering in Michigan. And it would have been mostly white pine lumbering. So you had trees, white pine trees at that time there that would have been 6 or 7 foot around the stump, and would have been one log probably would have had enough lumber in it to build a couple, 3 houses. So these were very old growth, large trees. So I think Grandpa clearly worked in the lumbering industry and you could make good money relatively by then. You could, if you were somewhat skilled, you probably could make back then $25 to $30 a month, which was pretty good wages for a person. And Grandma had this experience cooking, so she cooked in the lumber camp, and the cook was the highest paid person in the lumber camp. And they accumulated enough money then to buy 250 acres of good potato growing country. And they had a farm. They first built the log cabin on the farm, and then later they built a board house. And they owned a farm, and they farmed for 20-some years. And they made enough money during that period and saved it and then invested so that they could afford to move into their local Coral, their local small community, and sell the farm and have enough money to live. And Grandpa he died first. I used to go in the spring, we'd go down there in the spring and summer so that we'd go to their farm. A lot of times we'd go there for Thanksgiving. And Grandma was really small and slight. She lived to be 3 months short of 100 years old. And he lived to be in his 60s. So, and they lived in town at the end in a fairly small house. And they would, when we went to the farm, they'd always have a barrel of hogshead cheese or a barrel of sauerkraut. Or they had all the food that they were used to in Germany. But he was a really good farmer, and she was a very good cook. And they had 5 children, and my dad's mother was the oldest child.